I'm assuming this is recording. I got it recording. Okay, I'm using OBS now. I'm trying to do a different. Instead, I was using Bandicam, and now I'm using OBS for recording to do this YouTube thing. So hopefully this will look better and work better because I'm old schooly, kind of oldie, slow at learning things. Anyway, so this is about making combat more interesting, not grindy. Combat can get grindy. Your turn, and then attack. What's your hour class, and who's next? It can get grindy, right? And slow and tedious, and that's not good. Okay, I've had now a series of long, extensive battles and combats, and they were fun and exciting and not grindy. Did not become just one attack after the other and get boring and hit points and stuff. So what can you do? So right here, I got on the screen here, things to remember. I'm just reminding myself. And I do a fumble thing that's a little more hilarious and fun, especially for dumber creatures, okay, like goblins, especially goblins and orcs. To me, goblins, I have a fumble on a 1 to 4. And since I'm doing the Storm King's Thunder, and I'll do another video on this adventure number 7, but I just want to do this quick little video about DMing combat sequences. So for the Hill Giants too, they fumble 1 to 4, and there was a lot of hilarity ensues when giants were coming over, and I'll explain the other video, but they're coming over this rubble, and one of them trips and knocks the other one down, and it breaks the momentum of this combat from grindy into hilarious and opportunities and the rise of excitement. So I suggest to you is to have a fumble system that really adds a lot of and not just hilarity but dynamics, because on my view I really feel creatures, goblinoids especially, and sort of those types of orky, they're the tribal vicious to each other, and they don't really train, they just fight. They're very fumbly, they'll make mistakes, they'll do stupid things. So for instance, if they do a 1, that's the worst, and obviously they'll hit themselves or someone else, and there's a good chance that they'll start fighting each other. And so that takes out 2. Like, for instance, in one adventure, there was a goblin, shot an arrow and hit and rolled a 1, and so he hit the guy in front of him. The guy in front of him turned around, and he took the damage and turned around, and then they started fighting. So it took out 2 goblins for a round or 2. You know what I mean? And I would roll again for them to see if they were still fighting or if they got out of it. And so in 2, fall prone, the trip, knock their other guys, knock into one of their own, mess that up. I would just do a bunch of disadvantages, or they're literally fallen. 3 and quickly, I put a couple extra little like dex save, strength saves, but it just, if you just quickly make something up, that's fine too. The players love that. 3, break a weapon, or they drop it, or whatever you want. You can come up with something. 4 is more like instead of fighting, they do something stupid, like like a bear tends to growl a lot before they attack, trying to scare you. So I would think like goblins, they'll just do something, or the giants will do something and not do an attack. That's one aspect of that really adds, and that way you can the fighting gets a little more dynamic. They can deal with one and not all of them at the same time. It's really lame when you're a player character and you just get surrounded by goblins or whatever, and then they just each attack you. That just can't, what I mean? That's just like that's just a downer. So when a couple of them start infighting and one accidentally hits the other, and they go out and like, oh, I might, you got a chance. It builds up this, it changes the pace of the fight. And I think my players are catching on that I make fights more dynamic like that. And another thing I'll do too is, especially if there's monsters or beasts and there's a mix of creatures and NPCs and people, I'll tend to roll for the beast to see if they even do the smart thing. If I roll between like a 1 and 8, I'll make them kind of either hesitate or fumble or do something weird that they start growling and threatening but don't do anything. If I roll really high, then they attack, and or maybe they'll do a little flanking thing, or what I mean. But I like to make it so that it's and I do that too. I do my own little morale thing too, which is kind of fun. Even for the characters, like they have NPCs helping them, like city guard or whatever. I'll give them like a little morale thing. If they roll high, then they come to the aid. If they roll low, they're backing off and scared and making mistakes. And it really adds to the flavor of it, instead of it all just being, okay, whose turn is it now? Okay, whose turn is it now? Okay, you know what I mean? So add that. So that's kind of like 2 things I have. I have the fumble, pretty high fumbles, and that gradation of the fumble, and then And then I'll also have kind of a morale or just whether they really think smartly to do something. In your mind, you can decide what that range is or what they do. And a third thing I do too is I will, if there is like if I do epic fights, I will obviously not play out the other sides of it. I'll role play those out, but I kind of roll like dice to see who's gaining on that. And you know what I mean. And based on if it's a hill giant versus a town militia, I give the hill giant that +6 and then town militia +4. But I wouldn't really do hit points if the giant really did a high roll, like he got 18 or 19. I would just he crushed the town militia. If the town militia got 18 or 19, they just did a little bit of damage to him. You know what I mean? And they're just trying to defend or whatever, and so I'd give them a little more defense or whatever. But I would just play that really like 1 die rolls per side. I wouldn't even worry about the hit points. If that giant, say, kills all of them and then turns to fight the players, I would just guesstimate. Well, he probably took about 20 hit points. I would just take that off. So I wouldn't, and that really helps the players too. If they have and speeds up the time as well. If a town militia, say, decides to help the players against giants, they just, to me, it's just more of a delaying effect. They help delay the attack of 3 giants attacking the players. Maybe, they could deal with 1 or 2, and the town militia deals with the other one. And so that's a great, that's like a magic item to the players. That helps them, so that they can deal with the 1 or 2 and then fight the other guy. So that's another aspect of, that's the way you do those kind of like so you're not afraid of going ahead and adding, some extra units in there, extra NPCs, whatever you need. And I do have these minis that are like mobs, like 5 or 6 in a little group that I use, especially for like these little skirmishes where I would say there's a lot of them, and I just throw down a bunch of those around and show them like, yeah, these are all fighting too, and your NPCs are helping, but they're fighting them, and you can deal with the giants, kind of thing. And actually, I'm going to do that in my Adventure 7 or Vlog 7, I believe, about it that I did. So that adds another great element of combat where it's not all grindy. You get 10 different turns or whatever. You just have those play with literally 1 dice each side, decide the numbers, the ranges, and who gets what damage and whatever. But don't even worry about hit points when you feel like you need that giant to turn on the players. Just put in your mind, well, he probably took like 20 or 5, or only 5 hit points or whatever. So keep it going, keep that pace going, and it makes it a lot of fun and not grindy. And I'm finding that I can do 15 versus 15, and you can still make it go pretty quickly if you just keep it simple and just keep it running. Well, that was another adventure, but whatever. But you know what I'm saying. And then this one was like, an epic battle with 4 hill giants, 2 characters, and like 10 other NPCs, creature, goblins, and trents and stuff. But it went quickly. Because I mostly played those out, and I rolled dice, but it was again 1 die per kind of, real simple stuff. I mean, and sometimes I would let the characters or the players roll for like the trents, like you can roll for the trent to hit the giant kind of thing. If I thought it did have an element of, but I wouldn't worry too much about initiative. I just kind of quickly place them in whatever order felt right. When they joined the fray, kind of thing. So I didn't worry too much about that. Just the pacing is important. And so that's just my little advice on combat and how to get out of grinds. Do fun fumble stuff. Roll random thinking stuff with positive or negative. And then when you have a bunch of skirmishes or NPCs, just do simple die rolls. Just keep going with the story. Have fun. So that's a short little video just to give you that. It was on my mind, and I was thinking about it when I played Adventure number 7 for the Storm King's Thunder. Okay, hope that helps.